Welcome to The Explainer. So today, we're talking about a massive idea for any company. How do you get people to actually want to learn? We're going way beyond just scheduling a few training programs. We're going to dive into how you build a real, lasting learning culture.
All right, let's get right into it. The first thing we need to wrap our heads around is the core difference between the kinds of fixes organizations try to make. Because, not all efforts to get better are created equal. Not by a long shot.
And this slide really lays it out perfectly. So on one side, you've got your tactical interventions. Think of these as Band-Aids, a one-off workshop to solve some immediate problem. But on the other side, that's where the real magic is. Systemic interventions. This is about playing the long game. It's about changing the whole environment so that learning just becomes a natural, everyday part of how things get done. Okay, so if we're going to build a learning culture, we really need to agree on what culture even means in the first place. It's one of those words we throw around all the time, but what is it really? And that's the fundamental question, isn't it? Before we can start building a specific kind of culture, we need a solid definition for the thing itself. How do we actually pin down this concept that feels so big? And here we have it, a really simple but incredibly powerful three-part definition. Culture is all about the shared values, beliefs, and norms. And that word shared is everything. It's not about what one person thinks, it's what the group as a whole accepts as important, true, and, well, normal. So when you take that idea and apply it specifically to learning, this is what you get. A learning culture has these key characteristics. It's a place where learning all the time is encouraged, where sharing what you know is just what you do. You don't hoard it. And this is a huge one. It's a place where mistakes aren't seen as failures, but as opportunities to learn something new. And I just love this quote from Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella. It perfectly captures the mindset shift that has to happen. You have to move away from this pressure to have all the answers and instead build an identity around being curious and always ready to learn something new. Okay, this all sounds pretty amazing, right? I mean, who wouldn't want this? So if it's such a great idea, why don't more companies have this incredible, thriving learning culture? Well, let's look at some of the common hurdles that get in the way. And I'm sure a lot of these are going to feel pretty familiar. It so often starts at the top, right? If the leaders don't walk the talk, nobody else will. Then you've got our natural human resistance to change, that feeling of, I just don't have time for this. And of course, a deep fear feeling. You add in a lack of recognition for trying new things, and knowledge being stuck in different departments, and the whole thing just stalls out. Now this is really fascinating. Try this with me right now. Just fold your arms the way you normally would. Got it? Okay, now look down and see which arm is on top. Now I want you to refold them with the other arm on top. Feels weird, doesn't it? It's a little uncomfortable, maybe even awkward. That feeling, that's your brain resisting a tiny, completely meaningless change. Now imagine trying to change the habits of an entire organization. And a lot of that resistance really comes down to fear, but it's helpful to break it down into two types. First, you have the fear of the unknown. We resist things like AI because we don't really get it, and we're worried about what it means for us. Then there's the fear of failure, that really personal anxiety about trying something new and, not being great at it right away. You have to tackle both of these. So we've defined the goal, we've looked at the roadblocks, enough with the problems, right? Let's get into the practical solutions. Let's look at an actual toolkit for how to build this thing. The most important thing to see here is that this isn't some kind of magic. It's a process, a system. It all starts with leaders who are bought in and actually model the behavior. Then you have to create what's called psychological safety, that feeling that it's okay to take a risk, it's okay to fail because you won't be punished for it. From there, it's about making learning a daily habit, not just some big annual event. And of course, you have to actually recognize and reward the very behaviors you want to see more of. And this question is just such a gut punch. It's so direct and powerful. Seriously, think about what your organization celebrates. Is it only about hitting the numbers? Or do you actively celebrate the process of learning, of being curious, of growing? Because whatever gets recognized is what gets repeated. So where does all this lead? What's the ultimate goal? Well, building this culture is all about empowering every single person to take charge of their own growth. It's about creating an engine that eventually starts to run on its own. This right here is the true sign that you've succeeded. It's the moment your job changes from pushing training at people to fielding requests from people who want to learn.
When your team starts coming to you with their own ideas for how they can develop their skills, that's when you know the culture is really working.
So how do you make that happen? Well, it all rests on these 4 pillars. You need to give people the autonomy, the freedom, to choose their own path. You have to help them set their own meaningful goals. You provide the tools so they can be resourceful. And finally, you have to build in time for reflection so they can actually see their own progress and adjust course.
Here's a fantastic way to think about it. You know those popular education apps like Duolingo? They don't force everybody down the exact same boring path, right? They're personalized, they're self-paced, they put the user in control. The goal is to build that same kind of smart, responsive system right inside your own company. So if there's one thing to take away from all this, it's that building a learning organization isn't about one big program. It's about a million tiny shifts. It's a change in what we value, what we talk about, and what we celebrate. And to get there, we just have to start small. So I'll leave you with this to think about. What is the one small step your team could take this week to start celebrating learning, not just performance?